You started your career back in 1992 as a dealer, the year of Harshad Mehta scam. So, from the screaming chaos of the trading floor to a quiet boardroom of a 4.5 lakh crore AMC, how does this feeling change for you? And what is the one thing that you miss from 90s and one thing that you feel that it's good that it's gone now?
So those days were a bit different because those days you can do everything that you want to do. You can be a dealer, you can be an operation guy, you can be a check writer, you can be risk manager, you can do a research, you can attend the AGM of companies. Because time tha.
Okay.
So in the sense you do 2 hours trading and morning money market will start at 8:30 in the morning. It'll go till 5:30 in the evening.
Right.
And sometimes raat ko bhi dealing chalta rahega.
Okay.
So these should be those days of market. You will have a full of excitement, you will not have time for yourself.
Sir, since you mentioned that there were some smarter people from IIT IIMs, I've seen, sir, you have done some part of your education from IIM and Harvard. Sir, what is the lesson that you feel personally कि जो आपने ट्रेडिंग फ्लोर पे सीखा वो IIM और हार्वर्ड में भी नहीं सीखा? ऐसा कौन सा लेसन है जो ट्रेडिंग फ्लोर पे जब आप लाइव ट्रेडिंग करते थे वहां पे सीखा बट IIM पे या हार्वर्ड में नहीं मिला?
I would say only one thing, which is more like intuitive based decision making, instantaneous decision making. आपको on the spot लेना पड़ेगा. If you go to the trading floor, of course I never gone to the trading floor, but I used to see people going to the trading floor.
Right.
But I have been on the other side. Somebody will call me from trading floor saying, "Bala, ये order मिल करो नहीं करो."
Right.
That means you have to take the decision immediately. I can say I'll come back to tomorrow. There's no question I'll come back tomorrow. There's no come back to after half an hour because phone नहीं लगेगा. तुरंत आपको call लेना पड़ेगा. Even the bond market, somebody calls you actually for bond market a deal. You have to take a call then and there. The moment you disclose your position, saying I want to buy at certain rate, you disclose it, that means it's gone. That means the next offer when it comes will be either lower or higher, depending upon which setting.
Coming on the ground zero, talking about the real impacts. So this war between Israel and Iran, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and this leading to oil spikes, right? India was never invited to the party, right? But still India has to face the heat, right? So your decades of experience in asset management, how do you control this type of risk where you can't control and predict, right? So what is your thought process on controlling this type of risk, especially?
So the risk every time it comes something new. We have seen over a period of time some risk will come, and today the risk which has come, which is of course impacting Iran US conflict. Definitely actually is created the oil prices go up high. Whereas the early, if it is early, had it been the in 90s and early 2000, the current oil prices would have been felt as a very negative for India.
Right.
But today it is not so. It still have an impact. I'm not saying no, but the impact will be relatively manageable given the fact that alternate energy sector is also in India has actually progressed quite well. Last 10 years, India progressed in multiple ways to make India more resilient into the volatility. At the same time, we also now found many ways and means how we can actually remain stronger. That belief system has to be.
I have always followed your journey, sir, right? Since starting. And the kind of leadership lessons you have always put forward. There are also some young CEOs who is watching this podcast right now. Sir, what 3 advices that you would like to give them and that can be really helpful for their careers and, for the organization they are leading?
So my always principle is
So today, let's dive in the mind of a market legend who is having 3 decades of experience managing 4.5 lakh crore assets. Today, I'm hosting a podcast with Mr. A. Balasubramanian, MD and CEO of ABSL AMC. So for the next 45 minutes, please don't miss a single second. Sir, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Akshat.
So sir, starting with, you started your career back in 1992 as a dealer, the year of Harshad Mehta scam. So, from the screaming chaos of the trading floor to a quiet boardroom of a 4.5 lakh crore AMC, how does this feeling change for you? And what is the one thing that you miss from 90s and one thing that you feel that, it's good that it's gone now?
So I began my career in 90.
Right.
Before the Ashmata scam.
Oh, nice.
And then after the Ashmata scam, I was part of an institution, which is again one of the early entrants in the mutual fund industry.
Okay.
So I was part of the dealer. I was actually money market dealer and equity market dealer.
Okay.
So those days were a bit different because those days you can do everything that you want to do. You can be a dealer, you can be an operation guy, you can be a check writer, you can be risk manager, you can do a research, you can attend the AGM of companies. Because time tha.
Okay.
So in the sense you do 2 hours trading And morning money market will start at 8:30 in the morning. It'll go till 5:30 in the evening.
Right.
And sometimes रात को भी dealing चलता रहेगा.
Okay.
These to be those days of market. You will have a full of excitement. You will not have time for yourself. There is time even I never used to have even time for even having lunch.
Okay, it was so hectic.
I used to have lunch at 5 in the evening types. Because you finish the day, by the time you finish the day, because I used to handle both. एक तरफ से मनी मार्केट में डीलिंग करता रहेगा, दूसरी तरफ से इक्विटी में ट्रेडिंग करेंगे. इक्विटी मार्केट ट्रेडिंग was only 2 hours during that period.
That time
it was only 2 hours.
Okay.
So therefore, you have to do everything in the precise time. You have to do everything in the precise times. So for me, at the time I used to do everything. That's why I call myself the multitasking man type of thing.
Right.
But now it's become more focused, narrowed. You'll have people responsible for multiple things. You don't need to do everything. That's one. Second is, I think I mentioned about 4,50,000 crores we are managing today.
Right.
That point of time also, I never used to imagine industry will become big. I never used to dream, नहीं बड़ा इंडस्ट्री हो जाएगा. काले काम करते रहें. आज के दिन भी जो पहले काम करते रहते हैं, अभी
वही कर रहे हैं.
So काम करते रहें, इंडस्ट्री बढ़ते जाएंगे. You'll also learn along the way. So that remains even today is constant. Learning, actually, that time also I used to learn. Because most of the time when you joined 90s, आपको उतना क्या जानता है, right? You do not, you all पढ़ के आ जाते हैं. But you not, market is bigger than you. So
It is always.
you always deal with people who are bigger than you. You also deal with people who are smarter than you. You deal with people who are actually highly educated than you. Then how do you actually get in this kind of scenario? How do you put yourself ahead of? You cannot be ahead of them.
Right.
And you can be a best follower of them, right? Even if you're not ahead of them, you don't need to be. But you can be best follower. You can learn from them. So that learning is even today remain constant. Even today also you meet with people who all walks of life. The learning remains because everywhere you can actually learn. That remains the same. Except आज के दिन में you click a button, you get everything.
Sir, but what was the learning source that time? Because right now we have AI, we have Google, everything is there, right?
Correct.
You can learn things in a minute, right? But what was the learning source that time, sir, back in 1992?
So the learning that point of times, in order to keep yourself fully equipped, you have to read.
Newspapers.
Your newspaper you have to read. You have to need company's balance sheet.
Right.
Company का numbers पढ़ना पड़ेगा. तभी लोटस शीट था, एक्सेल नहीं था. लोटस शीट में डाल के आपका नंबर डालना पड़ेगा. ROE कैलकुलेट करना पड़ेगा. ROC कैलकुलेट करना पड़ेगा. बॉन्ड डील्स कैलकुलेट करना पड़ेगा. ड्यूरेशन कैलकुलेट करना पड़ेगा. Manually you have to do. For valuation of bond, I used to do goal seek.
Right.
अभी अगर गोल सीक किसको बचेगा, गोल सीक दे आस्क व्हाट इज गोल सीक. So in the Excel file lotus sheet में that time it was lotus 1 to 3.
Right.
Then it became Excel sheet. Then it became Excel.
Right.
Initially it used to be lotus 1 to 3 and DBS 3 करके था.
Right.
So in that you have to do it yourself. You have to learn in order you have to read. You have to understand the concept clear. In order to make your concept clear, you have to read. That time it was not Google से आजकल Google से डाल दिया है.
उस टाइम कुछ भी नहीं होता था.
कुछ नहीं होता. Therefore you have to go and research. Therefore मेहनत करना पड़ता है. Secondly, there used to be time I used to come every Saturday, Sunday only to read balance sheet of companies because you deal with people who are more smarter than you. All IIT kind of guys.
Right.
And deal with them. They come with full deep knowledge. And your colleagues are the deep knowledge. If you have to also be at par with them, then you can only put the extra hard work. Then I used to come and read director's report of company. Because director's report through which companies used to communicate what is my future is.
Right.
Director's report. Audit report. Audit report is the one which will tell you what companies have done right in terms of accounting, what they are not done right, where the provisions are made. We used to go and look at actually the numbers like contingent liabilities. All these things we used to ask questions. We used to attend AGM. In those we used to go and attend the AGM to know what the company is going to be looking like the next 2 years, 3 years down the line, what directors are going to say, what the management is going to say. Today everything is available in the online मिल जाता है, तुरंत मिल जाता है, and it all get loaded in the website and so on and so forth. That's something is we have to do the hard work. But my view that actually is pretty good. Even today also, even if the information available, one has to, if you read, you get a different kind of joy. And you see it, you get a different kind of understanding. Because your mind is focused. Then while reading, you can analyze it in your mind. So there are many things that therefore that remains constant. But the information availability, we used to spend a lot of time on information gathering.
Right.
अभी
Gathering was a tough part.
Was a tough part. Intelligence gathering. अगर किसी में broker से बात करेगा,
Right.
That conversation will tell me what the direction would be. So today people don't do it. In those days, IMD forecast never used to be there. We used to look at outside the stock exchange.
Right.
So बारिश आएगा नहीं आएगा, अगर बारिश गिरना शुरू हो जाएगा, we can make an assumption.
Right.
Is all FMC stock चल जाएगा types, right? They're all, you link it to the nature, link it to the realities. And today, the world is a bit different.
Since you mentioned that, there were some smarter people from IIT, IIMs, I've seen, sir, you have done some part of the education from IIM and Harvard. Sir, what is the lesson that you feel personally कि जो आपने ट्रेडिंग फ्लोर पे सीखा वो IIM और हार्वर्ड में भी नहीं सीखा? ऐसा कौन सा लेसन है जो ट्रेडिंग फ्लोर पे जब आप लाइव ट्रेडिंग करते थे वहाँ पे सीखा बट IIM पे या हार्वर्ड में नहीं मिला?
I would say only one thing, which is more like intuitive based decision making, instantaneous decision making. आपको on the spot लेना पड़ेगा. If you go to the trading floor, of course, I never gone to the trading floor, but I used to see people going to the trading floor.
Right.
But I have been on the other side. Somebody will call me from trading floor saying, "Bala, ये order मिल करो नहीं करो."
Right.
That means you have to take a decision immediately. I can say I'll come back to tomorrow. There's no question I'll come back tomorrow.
Right.
There's no come back to after half an hour because phone नहीं लगेगा. तुरंत आप call लेना पड़ेगा. Even the bond market, somebody calls you actually for bond market deal. You have to take a call then and there. The moment you disclose your position, saying I want to buy at certain rate, you disclose it, that means it's gone. That means the next offer that it comes will be either lower or higher, depending upon which side you are. Therefore, instantly you have to take a decision. Therefore, in the academic, they will not tell you they're taking investment. The academic, of course, make you do better.
Right.
You can understand the concept,
Research.
formulas, research,
Right.
and then what approach you should take. We'll give you the methodology. See, I've also been a computer programmer in early part of my, initially,
Right.
as when I started my career, even I used to do programming. So I used to like programming, not because of anything else. You look at things step by step. We call it flow chart.
Right.
Every flow chart should go before you start writing a program.
Right.
So in that, even if you un-R can actually make huge difference. A dot or comma can make a huge difference in program writing. A and an R can make a huge difference. Therefore, how do you actually put? दोनों मिलके करें. And and R is different. R is different. Therefore, how do you actually make the more thing coexist in writing in the program? When you write a program,
Right.
all the things should be captured. It. Even a colon if we put, the meaning can change in the computer programming. Before that, you have to put a flow chart. So that's what I think teaches in the academics. IIM or IIT, all
But
this.
decision making was something that
A good decision making, on the spot decision making, analyze it. Within few seconds, you have to analyze it and take a call. Whether right or wrong. You can't debate that point of time right or wrong. After you go right or wrong, you can always do a postmortem. Once you take a decision, after that, sometimes your decision will go right,
Right.
sometimes your decision will go wrong. But you have to keep moving in life. That's the way I learned it in my early part of my career. Therefore, most of the approach I take, practical approach I take, given the fact that upbringing on these kind of markets were far higher in those period. Therefore, that's something I see as a bit different. But of course, what you learn in academics is also equally important.
Right.
You may be very strong on your entity-based decision making, but if you are weak on fundamental understanding,
Both are important, right?
then you can backfire. Therefore, both co-mingling I think is very important.
Right.
But intuitive can help you actually get better if you are strong on academics. If you are not strong on academics, not strong on fundamentals,
You will face
intuitive can
difficulty.
give you short-term success, not necessarily give you
A
long-term permanent success.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to share my interest, sir. I've been, very big follower of the global markets. Plus, I keep tracking those international relations. So nowadays, when I'm following international relations, especially Twitter is one of them, and I see a tweet is coming from Washington, and it's shaking the world markets, and markets are going haywire because of a single tweet. So, what do you feel that what kind of a world we are living in? Matlab, all those good stocks, research is going haywire, and a tweet coming from Washington is shaking the markets. What are your thoughts on that?
See, these noises will always remain. See, in my period, what kind of noise used to exist? Internet bubble. The internet bubble, when it happened those days, we used to remain awake till about 1:32 in the night
Why?
to see how our Dow is going to open,
Okay.
what the Fed is going to say, and what companies are going to declare results. In those days, the information used to come in the night. We used to wait for, we used to, of course, watch CNBC TV. It all used to come in CNBC TV. And that's where used to come. Bloomberg TV used to see, but not used to come in the net. It to come in the TV. We used to wait and watch in the night. The next day morning, if you are to Reuters, we used to use Reuters. In those days, Reuters used to be the biggest information.
Right.
We used to sit in the office and see all those kind of things. Today, those days, those were the information used to come.
Right. With a lag, sir. There was a lag.
With some kind of lag used to come. And today, when there's truth social and Twitter, other things, see, beyond a point, it becomes natural. The only difference between in those days and the reaction time used to be a little longer.
Right.
And today the reaction comes instantaneously. As you rightly asked a question about instantaneous decision how to take. Today, anything that comes on the same day, reaction comes. Therefore, question of this getting prolonged for a long period of time question, right? Because what would come, when, and how the market will react. So therefore, you have to get adjusted to that. At the same time, the noises always is there. Every market noise always is there. The question is which noise you want to take, which you want to ignore. Therefore, sometimes which I learned over a period of time, ignoring is also equally important as you pay attention to the news flows. Sometimes you have to ignore certain noises. Sometimes it could be temporary in nature. It cannot be something which is concrete in nature. But that only comes with the experience. Therefore, from a youngster's point of view, that's the challenge you'll have. But as a experienced person, maybe I can ignore it. But the youngster, how to ignore it? That's something one has to learn that as part of this. This will remain. And today, information flow is super fast. And cross-border inflows are very fast. In this kind of scenario, how much you pay attention and on what purpose and so on and so forth. As long as one is keep this in mind, I think one can still see it, ignore it, or ignore it and then continue, or see it, take actions. These are some of the areas one has to be a little more conscious.
But sir, coming on the ground zero, talking about the real impacts. So this war between Israel and Iran, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and this leading to oil spikes, right? India was never invited to the party, right? But still India has to face the hate, right? So your decades of experience in asset management, how do you control this type of risk where you can't control it, right? So what is your thought process on controlling this type of risk, especially?
So the risk every time it comes something new. We have seen over a period of time, some risk will come, and today the risk which has come, which is of course impacting Iran-US conflict. Definitely actually is created oil prices go up high. Whereas had it been the in 90s and early 2000, the current oil prices would have been felt as a very negative for India.
Right.
But today it is not so. It still have an impact. I'm not saying no.
Right.
But the impact will be relatively manageable given the fact that alternate energy sector is also in India has actually progressed quite well. Last 10 years, India progressed in multiple ways to make India more resilient into the volatility. At the same time, we also now found many ways and means how we can actually remain stronger. That belief system has to come. Second is all such issues I have historically seen. All such major issues may last for say 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. But then in the meantime, proactive measures which will be either taken or a measure will be taken along the way. See, today India is taking measures step by step, and this will bring in new innovations, and that's something will always happens historically. Therefore, while this cannot be ignored, current situation cannot be ignored. Also, we cannot say that this will also remain for too long, and it has to find a solution. Not affecting only India alone. Globally, is everything getting impacted. So therefore, in this case, policymakers will step in. The way COVID, when it came, everybody got together and found a solution for COVID problem globally. So in the same way, in the current problem that we are saying, now global, some other countries are getting impacted because of high oil prices. And they're also now coming together and saying how we can overcome these issues. Therefore, this will also find its own way of ending. Therefore, from an investor's point of view, that's why I've always seen being part of the investment world, this revenue as a risk, but we can only manage it through some bit of risk management that we can do through allocations of funds, through how do you take calls on certain sectors and so on and so forth, and that call we can take. At the same time, since you don't have an answer to some of the issues, you have to live with the assumption this phase also will pass.
So I get your point, but my question again here is that, you talked about alternative energy, right? So asking very straightforwardly to you from a point of a very naive investor, which energy can replace oil or complement it, and how long it will take?
See, right now, the oil cannot be replaced if you have to run the automobiles. Still 95% in India, almost 98% is driven by fossil fuel.
Fossil fuels, right?
Only thing in India has got the nature of adjusting themselves. You consume less. That's one way you can protect yourself. And second is alternate fuel. When the energy vehicles, when the electric vehicle starts coming in, you actually switch to that. And in your household, if you are using gas for the purpose of cooking, then can you move to the electric related stoves and so on and so forth. Therefore, I think India is one country. Historically, we have adjusted to the emerging trend, and basis which we always ensure that we come out as a strong winner. Historically, that's what happened. Therefore, there are many ways in which I think completely replacing oil would take longer time. I don't think it will happen in my own lifetime or in our own lifetime.
Right.
But at the same time, the source of energy can actually, mix of source of energy can change. Like today, the early days of having your light through having a kerosene at home. If you don't have kerosene, you will not have light at home. You need to have a lamp which is run on kerosene, right?
Right.
Now kerosene has become history. People used to have cooking being done at the firewood. That became a history. Now you can go back actually easily.
Definitely. But
Therefore, there are moved on. Therefore, there are many ways in which I think things can change. So, for example, I come from a village background. There used to be a time when we have to have our house cooking being done through the gas. There is no LPG cylinder gas. We used to have the gobar gas.
Okay, right.
So
Yeah, it's quite popular still in villages.
Quite popular in villages. Even today is popular in villages. I'm sure some innovation will come. See, that time the technology was a bit weak. Today, same technology, same gas availability can be made available through the innovation on technology. Therefore, some innovations will come. So, in my view, all those things will lead to innovations coming into place. Therefore, we will have to just see what kind of innovations can come, what kind of reinventing can happen. India has already increased the exposure to exploration of oil in India, oil and gas. So earlier, till last year, they were allocating less. So this year, they are allocating more money for finding oil and gas wells in India. Since India also has got enough energy resources like coal. Coal is the largest energy resource of India has got it. And coal can be used as a fuel for majority of the industrial belts. Most of the industrial output instead of using naphtha, petroleum-based kind of naphtha, they can use actually the coal. It's a question of adjusting. But definitely, of course, as you asked the question, can it replace oil? No, I definitely have an impact.
Just complement it.
Can complement it. It'll have an impact, no doubt. It can have, of course, higher the oil prices, higher the impact on currency, and higher the currency impact, it has an impact on our import trade balance. And trade balance get impacted. Higher the trade balance impact, it has an impact on currency current account deficit. As a result of current account deficit become an issue, it has an impact on the interest rate. The macroeconomic variable changes. But we have seen this in the last 30 years, all these things which I am saying, we have seen different part of cycles. And finally, after say some period of time when it does settle down, is a time where the policymakers will step in and then start taking actions, for which we have now hope something will come in very soon.
Sir, what do you think about solar? Do you think India can look for solar for energy source? Like we are implementing solar panels, right? So do you think it can be a very big thing for India in the coming decade?
Definitely, it can. Renewable energy can become one of the largest renewable energy. I think these last 2 years budget, they even encourage every household should have their solar panel at their houses. The excess power that is being generated can be given to the grid so that it can be used by the masses and public.
Right.
So all these are innovation. And I think we have certain great models that India has created, like Gujarat, if I have to take as a model where Prime Minister Modi started when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. He started covering entire canals which used for irrigation purpose, covered with solar panels. That means the space actually is the solar light goes to the water. So once it goes to the water, it actually becomes converted into steam and then goes up. That's the only way a cloud gets formed, right? So now actually they've actually now covered with the solar panels. The space which can be utilized for the purpose of giving power for agriculture purposes.
Right.
So these innovations will come. I'm sure the next few years we'll also find a solution for storing the solar power that is being generated during the day, so that it can actually have a night also the power can come from the using batteries.
We can have a backup of energy, right?
We can have backup energy. Therefore, all these innovations are happening. I think India is generally pretty quick in this kind of innovation and adapting ourselves to the next round of growth. Therefore, I am very confident what we have done in the last 10-15 years and making India as a more progressive country in the world. The current crisis will also make India to find more innovation.
Innovation in the terms of energy sources.
In the energy sources.
Sir, what do you think about this love-hate relationship between India and FIIs, right? We have seen FIIs exiting India, right? Sir, do we have a structural problem, or do you think that, FIIs at the global level are rebalancing their portfolios, thinking about the premiums over emerging markets? Or is there a valuation concern, or there is some structural problem? What do you think, right? And the main question, when they will come back, and how long our Indian markets will be dependent on FIIs for to soar and to get good values, right? So
See, I must mention to you that India is not dependent on FIIs. Because domestic flows have been very, very
always
strong.
right, yeah.
Right? Earlier, there used to be a challenge that domestic flows are not coming. Because I have seen this entire period of depend on FIIs in 90s. 92 is the one where India opened up for overseas investors to come. Even our partner, Birla partner was Capital International.
Right.
One of the first early entered in the Indian mutual industry. Sorry, Indian capital market. They used to call him as a FII. Now we call it FPI.
Right.
We used to, in our days, we used to call it FII. F2 we used to call it, or AA we used to call it. So now from there, where we are today, FIs have seen outflow $40 billion. But Indian investors have pumped in money. It was a big change that has happened for the Indian capital market. But that is it sufficient for the market to go up? It is not sufficient. We need both the players.
Right.
From FIs point of view, the same FIs were actually large investors in India. We cannot ignore that. Second, they also made money. When they move out, we must remember, anybody who goes out of the country by making money, they all will come back. They know actually the Indian market cannot be ignored. But at this point of time, everybody does a comparison. It's like you and me compare on stocks, right? We compare which stocks will look better than this stocks and so on and so forth.
Right.
When FIs puts money sitting in abroad, he looks at which market I'll make more money. He is there to make money.
In the current scenario.
In the current scenario. Therefore, you will find Korea is better. And India is whatever sudden, currently we are missing the AI-driven rally. Globally, China AI-driven rally is there.
Right.
Korea AI-driven rally is there. Vietnam chips and AI-driven.
We are just the consumer.
So India actually does not figure in the both semiconductor as well as AI-driven rally. If you look at it on a fundamental basis, India is actually purely fundamental-driven rally. But I think when FIIs will start coming in, when the valuation becomes somewhat cheaper. Today, if you ask me, valuations are reasonable. Earnings outlook is actually muted. Earnings are reasonable. The moment earnings starts outperforming the analyst expectation, which will happen, my view, 26, 27, the FIIs will come back. When the FIIs come back, they will not look at whether domestics are buying or not. They will buy purely. They will go out to the market for buying. Therefore, we can never ignore FIIs. We cannot live with the false assumptions FII will never come back.
They will come back. But yeah.
Therefore, we must continue to do what we are supposed to do, which is keep investing for long term. This kind of volatility will remain. And therefore, we have to live through the volatility as we live through the good period. As you get a joy in a good period with good return that comes, we feel very happy. We must share the period of pain also. Along with that, then only I think big money is being made.
Since you mentioned about earnings, do you think the next quarter results will be difficult because because of this war impact, things will be priced in the balance sheet and P&L, right? And because of that, there could be a delay in the entry of FIIs, right? Do you think that?
See, we cannot estimate or predict when the FIIs flows will come.
Right.
See, the moment economic outlook become promising. See, they don't go only with the earnings. They also look at various measures. The government keeps taking it.
Right.
I think if you look at India policy framework, is more towards making India as the fastest growing economy.
Right.
So as I mentioned earlier, the investment that we have made in India and infrastructure is more to the consumption. Like GST cut came to drive the consumptions.
True.
Exactly. And then infrastructure investment now moving away from building only road infrastructure, we are also moving towards the rural infrastructure development.
Right.
Now we are going through the municipal corporation development of municipal corporation cities. So all the things are more in the form of initiatives being taken to make India to be the fastest growing economy. Therefore, the moment they see actually that time has come for them to come in, I think they will come. I think my view, for the next year, if US get into recession because of the current challenges, I think US will start cutting rates. The moment you start cutting rates the next, say, 1 year, then Europe will start cutting rates. The moment these two developed economies start cutting rates, then money will start actually going to other market. In my view, India will become a large recipient. Second is, they cannot go and keep on putting money over per good performing markets. See, when China was getting negative flows, we were getting positive flows. And why they are coming? Because India was giving them a higher return.
True.
Now they are going to China. China is giving positive return, they are there. The moment China positive return can get converted into the overvaluation, which also will happen. There will be some market will become overvalued. On a relative basis, India will become undervalued. Therefore, they will start coming. They will look at actually the valuation of each country. Therefore, who are going and pumping in money in Korea and China and Vietnam,
right.
After some time, they'll also think now it become costly. Therefore, let me go towards India. So ultimately, everything will work around the relative valuations.
So let's say 3 months down the line, we see FIs are coming. What will be the sector, maybe banking, financial consumption, that you feel that FIs will take the first entry, or what will be the market category, large cap, mid cap, small cap, which will be the first entry point for FIs, sector wise also and category wise also?
So I think in terms of market cap wise, I think we as a fund house now turning bullish on small and mid cap as well.
Right.
Because one, valuations, market correction has happened, of course, the large cap. Market correction also equally happened in the whole market. The first is small and mid cap fell, then large cap fell.
Right.
Therefore, valuation, if I have to take it, I would say the whole market valuation will become somewhat reasonable without saying large cap or mid cap.
But still at a premium?
And not at a premium.
Middle small cap?
It's not, we can't say the premium. Yeah, they deserve
Fairly
marginal premium.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is a marginal premium because the rate of growth is actually higher than the large cap companies. So that's as far as the market concerns. In terms of if you take various sectors, I think we as a fund house bullish on financial sectors.
Right.
The financial sectors have got 31% weightage in the index. And financial sector actually is the proxy to the Indian economy.
Right.
So I think the credit growth is coming back.
True.
And deposit growth is quite reasonable. And NIMs for banking sector is very good.
Right.
And the entire focus of the government actually is to take the economy next level. Therefore, the lending will continue to get better and better as times to come. Therefore, that sector also got corrected. Valuations are now very reasonable.
Very cheap, right,
Very cheap.
comparatively.
That's something is there. Even IT sectors. Today, because the AI, global AI, Indian IT sectors are getting punished.
It's becoming a dinosaur in Gen I world.
It is. And we have seen, but Indian IT companies cannot be ignored given the huge balance sheet. Given the huge capability they have to reinvent themselves. Everybody will reinvent themselves. In my view, some of
time, sir, don't you think change, like at 5 lakh, 10 lakh crore company changing from a man-hour productivity bill to a productivity output raise kind of bills, right? Don't you think it will take time, like TCS in changing the system?
ultimately everyone has to implement it. So
Right, but time it will take. Don't you think it will be a lagging period for the next 6 months?
No, that is quite possible. Ultimately, the market is always smarter than you.
Right.
The market discounts some of this, what you are talking about, negatives. Discounts in advance.
Right.
The market punishes the bad news very fast. If you think it will further get punished, then there is high probability you are not even able to get it right. Therefore, the market punishes the companies on the basis of certain change in the outlook very fast. In my view, IT companies got corrected last 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. Absolutely has gone under the water. So now, in my view, I think time is coming to look at the sector as a contraband. The third is actually the consumer. Indian consumer consumption in India continues to remain somewhat muted. I think this before budget GST cut, budget is positive for consumption-led growth. Third is the 8th pay commission.
Right.
8th pay commission. I think will come in.
Right. 8th pay commission.
And rural economy continues to do well. Therefore, that sector also, in my view, would become a sector to look at it.
Right.
And fourth, of course, capital goods sectors, engineering and capital goods sectors, I think continues to be driven by the spending. I think India continues to be the large spender and building capex. Public sector infrastructure capex, private sector capex, which is coming in gradually, and then state government expenditure on the capex is continues to be very high. I think therefore, if you take the entire, like energy sector I mentioned about, continues to see investment in the capex. Therefore, the capital goods sectors would probably be also got corrected. Therefore, capital sector also will become one of the sectors to stay focused.
Right. And large, mid cap or small cap, what can be the first entry point? Large caps, highly liquid.
No, I think flexi cap was far better.
Okay.
Because at least from a mix point of view, we believe that you have to have a mix of large and mid and small cap.
Right.
And we also been suggesting small cap fund also.
Right.
Because now is the time actually look at small cap fund a little more aggressively in allocations. Because the next wave when it comes,
Right.
it will actually the beginning of the rally could happen from the small and mid cap, then come to the large cap. When the FI starts coming in, I think so far FI's allocation towards India has been coming down.
Right.
When they allocate money, they will of course drive it through the large cap.
Right.
Therefore, large cap could be, as the large cap getting better. The normally what happens, the rub-off effect of large cap seeing a buying interest comes in small and mid cap because valuations are reasonable. Yeah.
Sir, I remember maybe 1.5 months ago, I was sitting in my office and reading some reports, and these guys, Divyanshu and Dhruv, came to my office, came to my cabin and said me that we could see that one video where a US State of Secretary is saying on a session and a seminar that we won't do the same mistake with India that we did with China 20 years ago. So what does it mean, right? Like, are they scared of competition, right? because currently they are, they are sitting at the throne, right? And they could see a dragon coming to them and, maybe dethrone them in the next couple of decades, maybe before than that, right? And are they feeling the same kind of fear with India? What's your take on that? And is it like, they want to store their power with themselves?
See, everyone will have, they have every right to make these kind of statements, and everyone will perceive it differently.
Right.
Whatever said and done, India became the one of the super power in the say 10, 15 years, cannot be ruled out. I think we are getting in that directions. We are doing everything brick by brick. How India can actually be the driver of not just only in India, even a global growth. Global growth also will increasingly depend on in India. So therefore, that's something everybody recognizes, that globally recognized. I think we are now becoming self-sufficient in every aspects of business activities, whether it is in defense, they are making huge investment in defense, which will never be the case in the past. So now this will be seen as a something. India would soon become a developed nation.
Right.
We are getting in the direction. Therefore, any one developed nation will always look at other developing nation as something, as not as a threat. Something it can complement also. Today, if India spends more money on defense and other airline activities, the benefit also goes to the supplier of raw material, supplier of equipment. Basically, the US. US also will be large beneficiary.
Right.
Therefore, these kind of statements need not necessarily should be seen as a negative light. This also should be taken as somebody is acknowledging the power, acknowledging the emerging power, and then giving respect that India is doing right things and recognition. Therefore, in this process, what could happen is it only lift you up rather than lift you down.
So do you think that, we are at the same inflection point that China was 20 years ago, right? Can we expect same kind of growth that China did, right? And what are some takeaways from their growth story that we can take, or maybe something differently we need to do from here to get that kind of growth like China?
So I think definitely, of course, India is ambitious and China is also ambitious, but the execution capability is actually far superior to India.
Right.
Engineering and technology capabilities actually is far superior. Their ability to adapt to the global trend and then create their own expertise in every field. I think China has done exceedingly well. They are able to build the unit cost economy. If you look at in China, is far lower compared to India.
They mastered it.
They have mastered it, and they can build on scale.
Right.
And in India, while we talk about build on scale, we need to still work around. Therefore, at this point of time, we cannot say we are the same size as China. But there are many other areas. Of course, we are far better. I think when India was progressing on service sectors, China is nowhere near to us on the service sectors.
Right.
If you look at hospital sectors, we are nowhere near to the what China is, what India is doing. Nowhere China is close to us. There are certain sectors we have our own advantage. China has got on the manufacturing side. I think India is one country. Fortunately, the last 2 years, Make in India theme has actually is now re-emphasized, reignited, I would say, manufacturing sector to become more powerful in India, and for which our unit cost of economy has to be lower.
Right.
To the extent
then only we can survive.
that is when survey. Therefore, the high probability, I think India would also start working with other nations to get the technology transfer to India. What China has done, technology transfer happened. Say, I was reading a book of Apple, the earlier as he was living. The one other thing that he did in Apple is actually the entire thing outsourced to China.
Right.
And therefore, the benefit has gone to China out of the years. That's what they were saying. Steve Cook, and when he recently announced the retirement, and China has got the full benefit of entire Apple outsourcing coming from China.
Right.
So they did it because it is a unit cost economy in China is lower.
Right. That's
So
what they went
India has also done the same thing on the service side.
Right.
So we are done on the service side. We didn't choose the manufacturing side, whereas China chose on the manufacturing side. I'm sure India now is actually replicating the manufacturing side. The time will come where India will also will become a superpower on the manufacturing side. Whether we can do it at the same level of China, given our leadership vision, given our political will that we have, given our strong balance sheet that we have. So India has got today a strong balance sheet, which is basically the fiscal. Because India has got a very strong balance sheet, there is a unified focus on action that is there.
Right.
And that's something my will definitely benefit. Of course, we must also understand we are a democratic country. Our federal system is not the same as China. This is an autocratic country.
One more thing, sir, I personally feel that the kind of labor productivity and the skill set they have got, I think we are lagging behind in some kind.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of pluses and there are these kind of minuses. I'm sure the policy framework
Right.
that India is creating it. I think one good thing around India's policy making is equally adaptable. We quickly change it. That will serve the purpose of Viksit Bharat.
Right.
Therefore, I think the one good thing that has happened for India is where you want to reach is already fixed.
Right.
Then you have to keep looking at, am I doing everything right? Which will ultimately lead me to 2047 Viksit Bharat. If it is lacking, I'll have to do a course correction. So that's something I think India is increasingly adopting the direction. Therefore, the India doing better than other markets, I think, would remain. The belief will still remain.
So like we call China as a factory of the world. What do you call India? Pharmacy of the world, service providers of the world.
Service sector, service we have done, pharmaceuticals we have done,
Right.
and the engineering.
Forte.
And the engineering side, automobiles. Automobiles, India is actually has been we are one of the major supplier of automobile equipments to the Bosch of the world, companies in Germany, companies in the US. We are one of the largest partner.
Right.
And India, especially post this China plus one thing came, India was actually one of the area of dependability, reliability. I think India is far superior.
Right.
And therefore, we can't keep comparing everything with it. Definitely, India deserves to be a fast-growing economy, as we have seen in the case of China. And they also gone through their period of pain period. So in that period, I think we could do well. So this is, I think, would remain. I think whatever said and done, we have created our own huge space on the service side there.
Right. Sir, coming to the next phase. Sir, I've been in the market for the last 8 to 9 years. And I keep following AMCs and how they are managing their business and how they are running their funds, right? I have followed ABSL, right? I really hold the shares also, right? Because I'm quite optimistic about the company. Just want to know, sir, probably 2019 to 22 was a kind of tough phase for the company where some funds were underperforming, especially in the equity. Sir, what do you think? How could you make this comeback very stronger, right? Like your funds have started performing. What are the reasons?
I would say we already come back.
You had a comeback. Definitely.
Last 2 years, I've been a good year for us. Aditya Mutual Fund have done well.
Right.
Don't go by the measure the success only by my stock price movement.
100%, sir.
The stock price movement is actually one part of it.
Right. I'm holding that because I'm
we have to do a lot of things right. Which is from people, processes, governance, and then deep commitment with the individuals have to bring on. See, ours is a people business.
Right.
So I think as a fund house, I've also gone through cycles. I've been part of the same. You are saying 9 years you have in the capital market. I spent about 32 years in Aditya itself. We had a good period, great period.
Right.
Then we went through our down period. Everyone has gone through this. And we also had our share of pie and the downfall also. Because you can't be always
100%
being at the top and not go through the pain period. When you grow faster, it always follows up with some kind of pain. But I think as long as you know where the pains are and what needs to be done, I think that is the beauty of us.
Right.
That we will go through a pain period, but we can take some kind of corrective measures.
Right.
And basis we will also come back. And I always build Birla Group will remain for multiple generation.
Definitely.
Aditya will remain for multiple generation. Therefore, with anything that we do, which will actually make the organization stay for longer term, that's a comfort I always go to investors. That is being the case, whatever steps they have taken, they are now reflecting on fund performance.
Right.
And people are extremely committed to drive this performance. Third is from, it's not just only investment is a heart. Investment is a heart for us.
Right.
So that if the investment does very well, the entire ecosystem does very well.
Right.
So that is the way I'm building. Last 2 years have been a great year in terms of coming back. In fact, I must also mention because of a long-standing track record in delivering one of the best performance for investors in the fixed income side.
Undoubtedly.
We got one of the largest mandate in the country, the EPF mandate we got this year.
Right.
But all this in my view is the proof of putting, I would say. Proof of putting, credibility, then the way the fund house that delivered long-term performance.
Right.
So despite short-term we went through a pain period,
Right.
our long-term performance was not bad.
Affected,
We are still given a better return than index
Definitely.
on a 20 or 30 year period. But as you rightly said, we went through a bad patch of, in fact, I must mention 2018,
Right.
we became the number one fund houses going past even State Bank of India.
Right. That was a milestone, amazing milestone.
Then that's the time I always tell my colleagues, the power of brand, Aditya power of brand is as good as say State Bank of India, if not better.
Right. Very true.
So that is why I always say, I cannot say SBI, I'm better than SBI. I cannot say because at the end of the day, they are a large organization, good brand, established for multiple number of years.
Right.
But our brand is also like, there are values tell me, we became number 3. Therefore, let us keep our activities high.
Right.
And with the conviction that yes, even if we go through a period of tough period, People have the wherewithal to come back, which is what I would say. We have come back in the last 2 years.
Sir, what is the reason for this such a strong comeback that you've made?
So one is, of course, the people. As I mentioned,
Right.
you have to look at what are the levers you have to change.
Right.
For every business, you have to do a course correction. I call it the course correction. That course correction can come from your processes on people, the way you operate, the way you actually engage. I think first and foremost, we identified there needs some sort of change in people.
Right.
So we brought some new talent. Second, identify talent, make them actually become successful. Invest on people's skill. So actually invest on skill development of the people, so that they get better as individuals. I can't keep changing people every now and then. Make the individuals become better. Third is understand, once you get a new set of people, understand the individual capability. Somebody is good for certain areas only. Then have you done right allocation of portfolios to the people
Okay.
who are actually who are an expert in certain areas. Don't make them run around everywhere. Make them stay focused. Then look at the productivity of the team, excellence, how they are creating excellence, productivity of the team, engage in the market. Sometimes I call it as a fear of missing out. Sometimes it's also fear of reaching out. Sometimes you may go and meet people you cannot speak.
Right.
During the tough time, I said you must engage in the market and handle the investors and so on and so forth. That's something we made some changes in the last 2-3 years, and that is of course now beginning to pay off.
So let's say I'm in a tier 3 city. Okay. I've always been invested in fixed deposits, right? Because that's what my parents and grandfather told me, right? And now first time I see, I should move on to mutual funds. And I believe that, ABSL mutual fund is one of the brands and one of the AMC I would love to go for. Sir, as a tier 3, tier 4 investor, right? Nothing knowing about markets too much. Where I can think what expectation I can keep from ABSL AMC, what expectation I can keep from you.
So one, first of all, you have to make an assumption that you are dealing with the brand which will have a long years to go. Therefore, you are investors. I presume you have another 30 years to go as far as your
Right.
earnings concerned.
Right.
So that means you are getting married to a company or making your investment being put in a mutual fund, which you have multi years to go, and you also have multi years to go. Therefore, look at the investment as a long term.
Right.
And second is the people and process which I mentioned about. All are built towards building the long term good experience for the customers. So the idea should be to create a good experience in the longer term. So you have to have that kind of faith and belief. Having seen 30 years of cycles, so we would also do the right things, not only about return, risk management also. As the industry become bigger, managing risk also would become equally important. So as a fund house, we give equal weightages importance to, as we are giving for return generation as much as important we give. We also give equal weightage for safeguarding our investors' interests by managing risk.
Right.
So that's what I think you should expect from Aditya Birla Mutual Fund as an investor.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you are not investing for 1 or 2 years, you are investing for at least for 30 years of a period, if not multi-generation.
Right.
That is the way you should look at it.
Perfect. Sir, before we wrap up, and I ask my last question, I've always followed your journey, sir, right, since starting, and the kind of leadership lessons you have always put forward. There are also some young CEOs who is watching this podcast right now. Sir, what 3 advices that you would like to give them and that can really helpful for their careers and, for the organization they are leading?
So my always principle is there is absolutely no replacement to hard work. You have to do the hard work. Things may be looking easy because your AI is there and so on and so forth. It may look very easy. It might be anything that comes too easily will not last for long.
Not even a smartwatch, sir.
That's come later.
Okay.
Therefore, hard work, there is absolutely no replacement.
Okay.
That's why when something comes easily, you may think everything is easy. Therefore, you may think that hard work is not needed. When I mean hard work in the sense, you have a job to do, I have to ensure that that job I am doing it diligently, repeatedly, and continuously. So that should be, that comes as a form of connection. Basically, the seeing is believing it types. So therefore, that's something that should be the first principles.
Right.
Second, of course, is about, and today's world is about we're staying focused. I think we can do multiple things, but staying focused on what's supposed to be delivered. And that's something is the second one. And third is you must enjoy what you're doing. If you are doing it just for the sake of money, but your heart and soul doesn't come,
It won't.
then it won't work. Therefore, it's not everything. You should not go after money. It's about how much you are giving a better service experience to your partners, your investors, your ecosystem. Because ultimately, your leaders should also contribute to the the ecosystem happiness, how we are able to do that should be part of your broader agenda. So you may not do it as in then and there. You will, of course, your priorities will change. But ultimate aim should be to how I'm creating impact in the ecosystems. So that should be the ultimate aim. I think each will happen in the stages. In our case, initially we were all selfish and build our own career.
Right.
Then we started building others' career. Then we started building the ecosystem development. Then we started contributing to the industry success. That's the way each one of us actually built at each period. I would say 25 to 35 is a period of for yourself. Maybe 35 to 45, you are off the ecosystem. 45 to 50 is actually external systems and so on and so forth.
Right.
So that's the way I think one builds it up. There's high probability individuals can create huge success.
Amazingly well, sir. There's a kind of very good golden advice for our viewers also. Sir, this podcast was really special, and I really like to thank you for giving us this crucial time and giving you insights on CXO leadership, about markets, about international relations. Once again, sir, thank you for your insights. I'm really sure that the viewers must have enjoyed. Please let me in the comment section, viewers. See you in the next podcast.